So, the Pixel 6a has been getting a lot of noise lately. Everyone's talking about it. It just came out a couple days ago, but it's not the only A phone they need to think about. Now, I'm not talking about the 5a, I'm talking about Samsung's Galaxy A53. You didn't think Samsung would skip out on this party, did you? The Galaxy A53 came out a couple months ago, and these two phones are easily two of the top Android phones for anybody looking to spend less than $1,000, in fact, less than half of that, on a phone that can in many ways compete with flagships. These are both selling for $449, and they offer a lot for that money, but they do so in a really different way. On one hand, we've got a phone that offers a lot of different features and does all of them pretty well. And on the other hand, we have a phone that offers only a couple features, but does them really, really well. So between those, which is actually the best one to buy? Well, I'm not gonna dive into the specs on this video. I'll talk about them a little bit, but mostly I'm gonna talk about my own experience with these phones, actually using these in my pocket for the past couple days side by side, and I'll also dive into some tests so you can see for yourself which one is actually the better phone to buy. And I think it becomes pretty obvious later on in this video. But before we get any further, I wanna have you guys vote in the comments below which one, just right off the bat, which one you think is going to be better. Go down in YouTube, click on the little comment section, type in either the Galaxy A53 or the Pixel 6a. And while you're down there, if you wanna click that subscribe button, it'd make me really happy. And in the future, I will be talking about the Pixel Buds Pro. I've been getting so many requests for those. We'll talk about those in a future video. Subscribe to see that. Now, as far as the physical design goes for these phones, let's start off with that as our first category. They're both water resistant. It's great, IP67. It's something we didn't used to see in a lot of mid-range phones, but we finally do see that. And I want to talk about these in terms of kind of giving awards to one or the other. And so looking at the front of these phones with physical design, the display is very, very different. I think it comes as no surprise that the best display has to go to Samsung. Samsung always crushes it with displays, and when you actually look at the numbers, it makes sense here as well. The Pixel has a 6.1-inch display, which I do like the size of that better, but 60 Hz Full HD Plus OLED versus a 6.5-inch 120 Hz Full HD Plus Super AMOLED. Without a doubt, when you're using this screen, it's so much faster, so much better color, so much smoother. The A53 crushes it with the display. And in addition to that, it's also a more durable display with Gorilla Glass 5 versus the Pixel's Gorilla Glass 3. So that is a huge win for Samsung. If we flip over to the back, I'm gonna flip over to the other side here and say the Pixel is probably winning the design award, at least in my opinion. I think the A53 is, to say the least, a boring phone. No, the Pixel, on the other hand, looks a lot like the flagship phones. It's plastic as well, but it really is convincing. It looks a lot like a glass back. And I love the two tones, the white and the very, very subtle gray, as well as that iconic, or it's already becoming iconic, at least very recognizably, a Pixel camera bar across the top. In addition to that, I've always said this, and I'm so glad Pixel finally did this, having a camera bar makes so much more sense than a camera cluster, because when you lay this on a table, it doesn't wobble back and forth. Again, a huge win for the Pixel. So right now, we're tied 1-1. Now, getting back to the front side, we're gonna talk about the cameras later. I know you guys are probably interested to learn about the cameras, but what I wanna focus on here is actually the biometric login. I'm actually making this an entire category of itself because it's something you're gonna do every time you pick up this phone. And this, believe it or not, is a win for Samsung. They're both using an optical fingerprint sensor, which you might think is going to be, pretty similar in both. And although I like the placement better on the Pixel, like on the Galaxy A53 at the reach kind of far down, the A53 is so much better, so much faster, way more accurate. You just tap it, you can miss somewhat and still get in really easily. And so it's a much, much smoother way. Whereas the Pixel, although I really like signing in with that, and for the most part, once you get used to it, it does a good job, it's just too easy to miss, or it's slower, it doesn't compete in my opinion. And we do have a SIM tray on the Pixel, as well as a SIM tray on the A53, but the A53 doubles as an SD card storage slot. So you can have expandable storage on the A53, a huge positive there for anybody looking to get more than just 128 gigabytes, which is the default, which both of these do come with. Now, you'll notice that neither of these do have a headphone jack. They both have a USB Type-C port. We'll get into a test now and see how the speakers actually stack up. Now, phone speakers are great, but as I said before, I'm actually working on a video right now that I'm really excited about, focusing on the Pixel Buds Pro. So if you guys want to see that and learn more about not just using your phone speaker, but actually the new Pixel Buds, be sure to go down and click that subscribe button so you don't miss that video. Now, getting back over to the back of this phone, unfortunately, neither of these have wireless charging. A little bit sad, but looking at the cameras, you'll see a drastically different approach here. And this is kind of what I was saying is like the general theme of these phones. On one hand, you have a lot of features that are all done okay, and on the other hand, you have only a couple features that are done really well, and I think you can tell which one's which. The Galaxy has a ton of cameras, and some of them are good, but some of them are just a 5 megapixel macro camera, a 5 megapixel depth camera, so that they're just okay, right? But it has a 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 64 megapixel wide. Pixels aren't everything. We'll get into a test in a second. Whereas the Google Pixel, talking about pixels, actually has, ironically, the fewest pixels. It has 12 megapixels on both. I've been saying the word pixel way too many times. Let's just get into the camera test and see how they actually look. So starting off with the front-facing camera on the Galaxy, it does a pretty decent job. The front-facing camera on the Pixel, I think, does a slightly better job with skin tones, but when you get into portrait mode, again, the Galaxy does a pretty decent job here. A little bit of softening of my face. I wish it wasn't doing that as much. And the Pixel, I think, does a little bit more of a natural job, although the background looks a little grainy to me. Looking at the standard shots, you can see the corners way blown out, overexposed on the Galaxy, whereas the Pixel does a much better job of keeping everything balanced, great color, great dynamic range. When we zoom into 2x, again, the same thing is seen here on the Galaxy, whereas you're getting much more natural colors on the Pixel. And if we zoom in all the way to 10x, again, this is all digital zoom, everything looks really red on the Galaxy, whereas the Pixel, again, maintains very natural looking colors. Unfortunately, with the Galaxy, it looks like the depth camera doesn't really do that much, as there's a massive bubble of clarity right next to me that the Pixel did not have any issues with. And of course, going to an ultra-wide shot, again, you're seeing the same exact thing. It really struggles with dynamic range on the Galaxy, whereas the Pixel captures everything very consistently. So I think photos are a clear win for the Pixel 6a. All right, so these are the front-facing cameras. This is what it sounds like on the Galaxy A53, and this is what it sounds like on the Pixel 6a. Now the Pixel 6a, with this video, is limited to 1080p. I don't know if you can tell that right here, but it's definitely a lot lower quality. The A53 is shooting 4K, and just looking at them, obviously the A53 has a better display, but still, it looks a lot better in my opinion. But leave a comment and let me know which front-facing camera you think does a better job. Okay, so the Galaxy A53 rear lens looks pretty good with video. You can see a really nice natural bokeh for things up close. As you walk around, really great stability. Like I can jump, and you can see it's still pretty good. I would like the colors to be a little bit more vibrant, but you know, it does look pretty natural. It's a pretty gray day. Of course, we can zoom in with this, so we can zoom all the way into 10x, and we can zoom back, and it actually jumps, so that's a little weird. It jumps out to 0.5x, and the colors are a little bit different here. So leave a comment and let me know how this looks and sounds to you compared to the Pixel. All right, now the Pixel 6a also has a really nice natural bokeh there. As we go around, this is the same sensor we've seen on a lot of other Pixel phones. It's never been known for video, but it does have really great stabilization. From here, we can zoom in to up to 5x and zoom back out pretty seamlessly to 0.6x with consistent color there. Let's go back to 1x right there. So leave a comment and let me know how this one looks and sounds and which one you think is actually the better video camera. And the front-facing cameras on these are 8 megapixels for Google and 32 for Samsung. 32 is way more than I want. I don't want that much detail on my face, but you know what? If you look good, 32 megapixels, it's there for you if you want it. Now, I don't usually do this, but the haptics, like the vibrating motor in here, is substantially better on the Pixel. So I want to show you guys a quick little demo. So far in this video, it might be a little bit confusing which phone is actually the better one to buy, because there really are trade-offs, one after the other. And getting into the internals, well, they both have NFC, they both have 5G, they both have 128 gigabytes of storage, and the battery, although it's 4410 on the Pixel and 5,000 milliamp hours on the Galaxy, the battery life, you know, it might be a little bit better on the Galaxy, but the chips on the inside are really where we see a pretty big difference. We have the Tensor, the same chip that Google has on the Pixel 6 and on the Pixel 6 Pro, so a pretty fast processor. compared to the Exynos 1280. So benchmarks show the Tensor is substantially faster than the Exynos 1280. But when you're using the phone, well, let's get into an app open test just to see what the difference actually is. Because even some things that you don't see on camera, like the 120 Hz refresh rate, does sometimes make the Samsung feel smoother and faster. But when you're actually doing stuff, it is evident that the Tensor chip on the Pixel is definitely a more powerful chip. And just like any other phone, or maybe I should say just like wines and cheeses or whatever, you have to pair a really good chip with a really good software experience. So we have on the Google Pixel, of course, Tensor paired with Google's stock Android, which is going to be very light, very fast, but still packed with quite a few of their own hidden features in there. And then on the other hand, we have Samsung's Exynos paired with One UI. And One UI is one of the most popular platforms for a smartphone. Obviously, it's built on Android, but people do love this because it has so many extra features in there. Samsung really makes their own ecosystem, and I've made an entire video comparing these two. So you guys can check out that video. I'll link it down below. But essentially, One UI gives you some great features like screen recording, a secure folder, focus mode, Samsung ecosystem, and a lot more. Whereas the Pixel is giving you a lot of their iconic features like auto crash detection, non-stop song identification, obviously the very, very deep integration with Google's voice assistant. We also have things like hold for me and call screening and a lot of stuff like that. So that's going to come down to personal preference. And so overall, I've really enjoyed using both of these phones. But before I tell you my conclusion on these, I want to mention that a lot of you have been commenting lately that you noticed the ring on my finger. So yeah, I did get married recently. Thank you to everyone who noticed. Thank you for all your kind words. It's very exciting. I can talk more about that on social media. You guys can go check me out at Mike O'Brien with 2 N's, because Mike O'Brien with 1 N was taken, so that's my Instagram and my Twitter. Head on over there, we'll talk about it there. But these phones in general, when it comes down to it, I think you can break it down like this. For most people out there, the Pixel 6a is probably going to be a better buy. It's a little bit more streamlined. It's kind of like the iPhone of Android phones. It is affordable here, which is really nice, and you're getting a really premium looking phone for a low price. But with that, you're getting some compromises, specifically on the display and on the video performance. Whereas anyone who's a little bit more of a tech nerd and you want those extra features, but you're willing to be a little bit more patient with the processor, the Galaxy A53 offers you way more different features. They're just all slightly less good than the flagships, but if you're trying to get a taste of the flagships, and like I said, if you're a little bit more patient with the speed, the Galaxy A53 is also a really great phone. So, like I said, if you didn't leave a comment before, leave a comment now and let me know which of these phones you like better. I'm Mike O'Brien, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in that Pixel Buds Pro video. I'm not kidding, that's gonna be a good one.